Welcome to Watch and See Truth in History.
A moment in history marked by courage, chaos, and controversy. As Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer led his 7th Cavalry into the heart of Lakota, Sioux, and Cheyenne territory on June 25, 1876, he carried with him a strategy bold enough to secure victory, or so he believed. But was his demise a result of flawed leadership? Or did his subordinates, Major Marcus Reno and Captain Frederick Benteen, fail him in his hour of need? Historians and experts have debated this for decades. Did Reno and Benteen's actions or inactions seal Custer's fate? Were their decisions shaped by poor communication, personal conflicts, or unavoidable circumstances? Or was the real failure in Custer's strategy born of overconfidence and a catastrophic underestimation of his enemy? In this video, we'll unravel the complex events that led to the annihilation of Custer's command. We'll explore the evidence, examine the orders, and ask the critical question: did Major Reno and Captain Benteen fail Custer, or was his plan doomed from the start? Let me start from this angle. The question of whether Major Reno and Captain Benteen failed Custer during the Battle of the Little Bighorn is a complex one, involving both the interpretation of Custer's orders and the actions of Reno and Benteen. Number one aspect is the context of the Battle of Little Bighorn. I will discuss this from Custer's strategy perspective. Custer led the 7th Cavalry in an attack against a large encampment of Lakota, Sioux, and Cheyenne on June 25, 1876. He believed that a swift, aggressive approach would allow him to defeat the Native American warriors before they could organize a defense. The second approach is the angle of the divided forces. Custer split his command, sending Reno to attack the village from the south and Benteen to support him. This division of forces was crucial and would later be a point of contention. Another area is the confusion in orders. Custer's written orders to Reno and Benteen were somewhat vague. He instructed Reno to charge the village and, if he encountered heavy resistance, to fall back to a certain point. However, the specifics of how to execute this plan were not clear, leading to confusion about what was expected. Now let's look at Benteen's role. Benteen was ordered to bring up supplies and support Reno, but was also told to be cautious. When he received Custer's orders, he was already engaged in a different task and was delayed in reaching Reno. Reno's charge is another important aspect of the battle. Reno attacked the village but quickly encountered fierce resistance and was forced to retreat to a defensive position on the bluffs. His decision to withdraw was based on the overwhelming numbers of Native American warriors he faced. The arrival of Benteen to support Reno as expected also speaks well in this battle. When Benteen arrived, he found Reno in a defensive position and joined him. However, they did not attempt to advance towards Custer, who had moved into a different area and was ultimately overwhelmed. Before I conclude this part, here are some views of others to tell about Custer and the Battle of Little Bighorn. The failure of Custer's command cannot be taken by one individual perspective, but by different people with different opinions. As someone answered the question with yes and no, he explained further, "The fact is that it is extremely unlikely that Reno or Benteen would have been able to provide actual assistance for Custer. Benteen strongly disliked Custer and didn't take his orders seriously. Custer was ill-informed as to how outnumbered he was going into battle. Reno's party was almost annihilated by the Indians. If it were not for his hasty retreat and Benteen's arrival, it is likely he would have been wiped out as well." Custer originally thought there were only 150 Indians at the camp, which is why he outsourced his men to Reno and Benteen. In fact, there were about 7,000, with 1,500 being warriors. Between Benteen, Reno, and Custer, they had a little over 600 men. Custer went into battle with about 250 men. It is fair to say, due to interviews with the Indian warriors and men within the 7th Cavalry, in the years following the battle, that Benteen and Reno lied about their inability to help Custer. They clearly knew his position, that he was in desperate need of help and being fired upon. Numerous cavalry soldiers repeatedly asked why they were not going to his aid. Benteen and Reno gave different answers as to their inability to assist. It was only after an hour of repeatedly being pushed and prodded they made a half-hearted attempt to go to Custer's aid. By that time, Custer and his men were completely annihilated. They had all died within less than an hour of the battle. Whether or not Reno or Benteen could have made a difference is hard to say. Considering how outnumbered they were, it is unlikely. More than likely, even if they had made an actual attempt to come to Custer's aid, they would have been wiped out just like him. Reno and Benteen spent the rest of their lives defending their actions that day, with many people considering them cowards with an indifference to Custer and his men. Another person has to reply my question as more like the opposite. Custer split his already outmanned force into 4 parts. He then started an attack on the unscouted village while 2 of his forces were far behind. He told Reno he would support his attack. He did not. Reno's force almost suffered total destruction. He did well to save what he did. By the time Benteen caught up with Reno, he would have had some idea that they were up against a very large group of hostiles. Benteen elected to stay with Reno even after the trains arrived. Even after shooting was heard down the ridge, possibly in the form of distress volleys. Even after CPT Weir took his troop in that direction. Finally, Benteen joined Weir, but after only a short distance, they all stopped and turned back. It is unclear how much they could see or hear of what was happening to Custer. I suspect they saw or heard evidence that they were too late to make a difference. Thanks for your thoughts, and let's consider these following answers, too. A man replied, maybe or not they didn't want to work along Custer. Here's its goes. Best case scenario, Reno engages a little more aggressively, then holds the pines for at least 45 minutes, keeping a reasonable number of warriors fixed on him. Benteen makes a bit shorter scout and, if nothing else, increases his rate of travel once he receives the come quick order and makes it to Custer before Calhoun collapses. Then Custer launches his attack reinforced by Benteen, but with no extra ammo because the supply train would still not be far enough along to rendezvous with Benteen. Maybe they capture the non-combatants and the warriors capitulate. Or maybe they are overwhelmed. Or maybe the village is simply too large for this plan to work. At best, it is a 50-50 ratio. Also, more likely scenario. Benteen gets there, but only after Calhoun has started to collapse, or fully so, and maybe even after Custer is dead. But his appearance as an organized, mounted force creates an escape route for most or at least some portion of Custer's command, and provides a rear guard to get them back to the Reno site. Worst-case scenario. He is still too little, too late, rides into a meat grinder, and his command also suffers heavy casualties, but likely not 100%. Own troops' ability to execute a divided attack. Vague orders. The lack of clarity in Custer's orders contributed to the confusion experienced by Reno and Benteen. 3. Communication breakdown. The separation of forces and the chaotic nature of the battle made coordinated action difficult. In summary, while Reno and Benteen's actions can be critiqued, they were operating under challenging circumstances with unclear orders. The larger failure was Custer's strategy and command decisions, which ultimately led to the defeat of his forces at the Little Bighorn. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to iRich History for more history videos that discuss the truths like this. Kindly share your opinion and stand on this. Do you believe Reno or Benteen betrayed Custer on the Battle of Little Bighorn that led to his death on this horrible battlefield? Let's know your stand on this issue that can never be reversed in the history of America. Thanks for watching.